We didn't lose. That's that's what I'm taking from this. Is we didn't lose. It's progress. It's a point. And you know what we like to do on TGT is we try to put as much of a positive spin on things as we possibly can. We're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour trying to do that a little bit more, but of course getting a little bit real about things as well and getting the thoughts of our fantastic guests. So let's crack on with it. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our TGT podcast, the weekly show in which I'm joined by 2 to 3 fantastic guests. This week I'm outnumbered this week by the Irish, it's fair to say. First of all, I'm joined by Cian. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Not bad. How are you getting on?
Yes, very good, mate. Very, very good. And secondly, back for the second time this season, after we had a little bit of a preview where our thoughts were very different back then as to what might have happened throughout the season. It's one of our TGT OGs, back from the originals. It's Wayne. How you doing, mate?
Tom, pleasure. A week out of Christmas now, but doesn't look like we're getting any early presents from the boys in red.
No, it doesn't. I should say, if you turn your phone sideways, it should turn your camera landscape. I don't know if it's easier to... I mean, there you go. Look at that. Perfect. Lovely stuff. Okay, so let's crack on with this. I mean, it's... And hello, chat box, by the way. We can see all of you. It's a really weird game to kind of talk about, I thought, and obviously I weren't able to react live yesterday straight after the match because I was working. I did one this morning, so I had a little bit more time to reflect and think about things. Wayne, I'm gonna start with you. As someone who's obviously been on the channel for the best part of 5 years now, which is crazy thinking about how much time we've spent together. And we remember back to kind of the Wenger days and the end of that period going into the Emery period and now under Arteta. I'm really interested to kind of gauge where you're at with things, because you were very much Wenger out by the end of that period and well before the end of that period. So with how the situation is now, where is your head at?
Funny enough that you say that, like I was Wenger out. Yeah, okay, I was towards the end. But having said that, I was also quite patient with what I thought was happening at the club at the time, which is kind of reflecting where I am right now, to be honest with you, because I went through a period, I suppose, when obviously we had just, I wouldn't say we just moved, we were 6 or 7 years, maybe 8 years into the Emirates, and we were kind of at a stage of maybe 2013, 14 where financial deals were kicking in, where we signed up with Puma, and we some of our mortgage payments on the Emirates dropped to very low levels, which means that we didn't have to come up with 50 million every summer. So we were kind of stepping into a new kind of an era financially. The club, they had a little bit more to spend, whereas we were used to anywhere between 06 and 13, maybe 13, 14, of not having really a penny to spend, and really at the bottom of scraping the bottom of the barrel every summer to try and get cut price deals and players on frees and you name it. We were trying to get them. You know, we couldn't compete at the top end, and for that reason, when we got to about 2013, 2014, and we kind of got that little injection of cash at the end of every season that we didn't have before, I was quite patient with it. I was quite prepared to give Wenger a chance once he had money, because we didn't have it for a long time. I was like, okay, let's give him a chance. Then as time went on, I went from, I suppose, 13, 14, we competed, and then we capitulated. And then 14, 15 was kind of another season where, correct me if I'm wrong, but was that the season we only signed Czech in the window?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's that season. So
15,
in around
16.
that time was where the seeds of my frustration with the way the operation was moving was planted, if you get me. And I kind of went from that point to, we won an FA Cup, and I thought maybe we'll step into it. No, I kind of just got frustrated then. So, but for those 2 years, I did have the patience, you know, and I would be in the same frame of mind with Arteta in regards that, you know, I fancy the guy as a good manager. I genuinely do. I know he's getting an awful lot of, you know, it's, what would you call it?
Choices wrong.
Well, you can say, yeah, there's a lot of that, right? look, there's a lot that we could go into, but we're being we're in a bad position, but there's an awful lot of reasons why we're in a bad position. But the reactionary negativity on the manager, wholesale, as if it's all on him, I think is a bit much. And to be honest with you, I kind of nearly apologize to people because I jumped on it for a couple of, because I was
frustration, emotion.
Yeah, I came around to it and I kind of had a good think about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give the guy a chance. We're in a time frame now where it's December, so we need probably 2-3 windows, the same as kind of Klopp had, if you want to put it in that type of time perspective. That if he is as good as what he was probably made out to be in the beginning, that type of time is what's probably needed to gut this squad from what it is into something that he's probably happier to work with. Right now, at the moment, I think the players are not in the frame of mind to listen to him. They'd want to do their own thing. But in terms of what I want from, or what my approach is with the management, I'm prepared to actually take more losses, take a few more on the chin. Well, we've nothing to lose, right? All we have to do now is just ride the storm out and then let things develop from the bottom up, because they really do need to develop from the bottom up. And whatever needs to happen in the background, okay, we can't just keep chucking players at it, but we need to get rid of, players are basically, it's a football team, so the players count, the 11 on the pitch count.
Yeah.
We need to get it right on the pitch. And obviously we're not in the position where we have it right. I mean, if you look at the Southampton team last night, there was 5 or 6 of those could walk straight into our 11. So we need to get it right in the background. And I'm kind of prepared to take a few more hits. Pretty much the whole season, to be honest with you. We're not going to get relegated. We'll probably finish in around mid-table to below it. But it is what it is. Yeah. But what we have to do is look at have a bit of hope about it, I suppose. And there will come a time, Tom, next year, if it's not any change, where I will have a completely different mindset. But for right now, I will actually just give it just a little bit of a. I'll be a little bit more patient. I'm prepared to take a few more hits, put it that way, because I do believe that he can get it right.
Interesting. That's really interesting. If you would have asked me to predict kind of where your headspace would have been, I wouldn't have gone down that route at all. So it's interesting to see that we have, because I mean, you look at social media these days, and Arsenal specifically, the level of Arteta out already is massive. Like there's so many people.
I do understand.
Yeah, I can understand it too. The supporters of Arsenal Football Club do not expect us to be in 15th position, and looking at Southampton at home as a 1-1 draw is a decent result at the moment. And ultimately, I look at this result as a decent result right now, with all the context that goes around it. And that obviously for a lot of fans is difficult, and really difficult to kind of look at what the situation is for Arsenal and think, where are we going to go from here? And Cian, I suppose my question for you is did you look at the draw that we got yesterday against Southampton as a step forward, or was it an opportunity missed?
The first half, I thought it was an opportunity missed, in the sense of Holding, Gabriel, they looked shocking. They were passing the ball to Southampton players, and with Che Adams and Danny Ings, it was literally, when were they going to score, is what I was thinking. And then before the game even started, I knew Walcott was going to score. It's Arsenal. He's a pass player. It's always going to happen. So, I think when Aubameyang got the goal from a great run by Saka, have to add that in, I just thought that there was something about to happen. I felt Aubameyang's drive kind of came back, and you could see him running for the ball and stuff like that. And then when Gabriel got that red card, it was just as if everyone just deflated again. It looked as if we were going backwards, and I don't know, it just didn't feel like everything was going well for them again. I don't know what it is about Arsenal at the moment, and I just feel like Leno as well, with the fact he came out saying that some of the players were walking around the pitch. It just feels like, do they even care about the badge at this stage?
There is a lot of that, and I think that fans will be very emotionally attached to watching players not putting in 110% effort, players looking like they aren't interested. I mean, I'm interested to get a lot of the thoughts of the chat box this evening. Zamir says we're building it up to bring it back down. I don't know if you're referencing a Linkin Park song there. Next says, guess it would take a few more losses for some people to wake up. Oh dear. Throwing shots in Wayne's direction there. Doug S. Otto says, back the manager. The team has a lot of crap that we need to get and try and get rid of with the peanuts that we can for them. I mean, if we are going to sell, they are going to go for peanuts, let's be honest. Mike Hernandez says, this is super random, but I wasn't expecting that guy's voice to be so deep. Yeah, that's what I said to you earlier, kid. That's what I said earlier, mate. It's very deep. Your microphone's so professional, it changes how you sound completely. Sophie Barry says, Arteta needs another transfer window. Now Arsenal says, lads, how... What'd you say, Wayne? Sorry?
He needs two of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to come on and look at the kind of the where we go from here and what does January mean. And I think the next summer window is certainly one where we're going to get rid of a lot of our deadwood with Louise and Ozil and Mustafi, Socrates, all these guys going, and we're going to be able to do a lot more. But what's interesting is what we do this January and how we address the slide that we're currently in, and that's going to be really important. Chris says, I'm not Arteta out, but I take issue with constantly playing out of form players, odd tactics in some matches, inconsistencies in his non-negotiables. And oh Christ, there's a lot of rebound there. Zachary Briggs says, fair point, Fung. Debate can go both ways for sure. Either way, we need more quality in the side. Period. Wayne, are you there or have you disappeared? I was about to throw to you. You're still there. Okay, so in terms of where we kind of do go from here, a lot of that will come down to the team selections that Arteta makes, and he was forced into a couple of them yesterday with Bellerin and Xhaka being suspended. He opted for Sebastian Elneny in the midfield, and he put Ainsley Maitland-Niles right back, and then he put Pepe in, which we kind of expected with the suspension being over, and then Eddie Nketiah went up top. Were you surprised by any of those team selections, and would you have done anything differently, or do you think Arteta kind of did what we were all expecting him to?
Yeah. He did do what we were all expecting him to do in regard, well, except for was it Willian? He left on the bench, wasn't it?
Yeah, Willian was on the bench.
Yeah. Jesus, I kind of just half expected him to put Willian in anyway because that's what. But that aside, like I was kind of a little bit like, all right, well, he's after Chuck. Although a couple of them were forced. As funny enough, as Mike said in the group, it's not this week's squad that is going to tell a tale. It's next week's squad when a couple of these boys are back. Bellerin is a 1-game suspension, isn't it?
Yes, 1 game. So it's going to be interesting to see if he reverts to Bellerin or if he continues with Mainsley.
Funny enough, like even about Mainsley's performance, like I didn't think funny enough, like the stats can be absolutely as misleading as can be. Like he had 6 interceptions last night, and Bellerin apparently has 8 all season. I didn't see the 6 interceptions. All I seen was him getting torn to shreds by 2 different wingers for most of the game. Not really on. I'm not picking on him, but I would prefer to see Maitland-Niles as a midfield, in the midfield rather than on a right full. I just thought he looked absolutely. At times he looked decent. Then there was other times in the second half where he'd do so much hard work to win the ball back and then just absolutely give it away on the edge of the 18-yard box. And you're going, what is this guy doing? Is he for real? I just couldn't. I couldn't be trusting him in that right full position full time. 100%, I wouldn't.
Well, it's not his role.
It's not his role. I agree with you. And the problem is that we have nobody else to put there except Bellerin. So, to be honest...
Zamir says Cedric. We signed Cedric on a 4-year contract to back up a player that doesn't play at right back. Yeah, true. Look, I wouldn't be against it, but I thought he would have put Cedric in at right full last night and me put Maitland-Niles in the middle. But, he was obviously more comfortable the way he picked it. But, look, as I say, I'm watching out to see what happens on Saturday. To see exactly, Saturday or Sunday, whatever day we bloody play. To see who he picks then. Look, until we get rid of a few of these players and he hasn't got the choice to pick them anymore,
well then I don't know what else to say, because he is picking a lot of these players consistently, and I don't know what he sees that I don't know what we're looking at that he doesn't see, or maybe he sees something that we don't see.
Yeah.
I just don't get it sometimes. But look, it is what it is right now, and there's a lot of debates to be had as regards a good handful of players, 5, 6, 7 of them, whether they deserve to be in the starting 11. We probably won't have the time to go through them one by one, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, of course.
It's look at not surprised at what the selection was last night, but you know, it is what it is with him, I suppose. I don't think he's going to surprise. I don't think he's going to surprise me next week either. To be honest with you, I have a feeling I know what's coming, and I think we all do.
Willian's coming back. That's what's going to happen. Is we're going to see Willian come back into the lineup, and it's going to frustrate the hell out of people. And I wrote a piece this morning at 101 about how Arteta's selection in the game against Everton is arguably one of the most pivotal of the opening part of the season, because if you look at what opportunities are available to kind of get the fan base back on board, by playing Pepe again is one of those. By playing Mainsley or playing Cedric over Bellerin is one of those other choices. I think that the choice around who kind of starts that central role in the striking position is slightly more up for debate. Gabriel is going to be out, and we're going to talk about that next, but that's going to cause a selection headache in terms of who plays in left centre-back. Do you bring in a more naturally sided Pablo Marie to play there, although he's not been featuring on the bench when David Luiz and Mustafi have been preferred? So you do then play a player that's naturally right-footed on that left-hand side. It's going to be interesting to see what he goes for, but I do look at that game as the most pivotal team selection of his Arsenal tenure and in how he goes into that. Cian, the red cards, it is just hilarious at this stage. It's like the red card itself, when he got the yellow, it was a case of that's a sending off immediately. Like, everyone watching that was like, he's blocked Walcott on the halfway line going off on a run. It's a yellow card no matter what. The first yellow card comes from him kicking the ball away to prevent Southampton taking a quick free kick, which is just silly, especially considering that I think minutes prior, Ceballos had got a yellow card as well for punching the ball back to a Southampton player. We've seen Granit Xhaka throttle a player. Like, it's ridiculous at this stage. What do you think about the discipline side of things, Cian, and how do we go about changing things? And is it a simple fact of things aren't really going to change until we have a massive squad overhaul?
To be honest, I don't know what it is with the squad. I actually don't think it's Arteta's fault. I think a lot of players are just picking sides, and I hate to bring up the O word, but I think Ozil has a lot of influence on it, in the sense of he wants to play, but other players are taking his side and other players are taking Arteta's side. But looking at who's coming out saying they're backing the manager, the ones that are backing the managers are players that are coming out week in, week out, actually performing for us, fighting for the badge, like Leno, Saka, Tierney. Partey even came out saying that the manager is the reason he came. So, for me, I just feel like those players are the players that we need to build around. And even yesterday when Oba scored, he was buzzing to actually score a goal and to do something, but like, he's our captain, he should be doing way more than scoring a goal. Disciplinary side, I think what Gabriel did, if he didn't have the yellow card beforehand, if he did that to Walcott for his second yellow card, we'd all be delighted with him, in the sense of, like, Walcott was gone, he was going to score. But like, I've noticed I think it was the Liverpool game afterwards yesterday, and even the Villa game a second ago, both teams actually kicked the ball away as well. Look, it did exactly what Gabriel did, and they didn't get a yellow card, which I was a bit confused about. Again, it's going back to the consistency in all the yellow cards and stuff like that. But going back to, like, I think Ceballos, he's only here fighting. He's not really he's not doing enough to take away for what he's doing. Like, he's fighting with David Luiz. He was fighting with Eddie Nketiah at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And I just feel like when his loan's up, just let him go. I wouldn't keep him in the squad. Xhaka, he has a yellow card every game. It's not new for Xhaka. He's always getting into trouble and this thing of holding his opponent's neck, like that, just especially with VAR, you can't get away with that anymore. So what makes him think that he can, and why carry on doing it? It just makes no sense at all. And David Luiz, the fact that he got put into the game yesterday and doesn't even talk to Arteta, I don't know how true that is, but I'd rather see Murray on the pitch if that's the case.
Yeah,
wouldn't surprise me.
Go on, Wayne. Sorry.
Oh, I said it wouldn't surprise me with Luiz. He's been known for that, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got Chelsea managers sacked in the past from what we glean from things.
And Willian, yeah.
The thing is with Willian is like they're mates. Like they have a restaurant together in London. They're business partners, and there was I remember there was a link with Oscar in the summer, and it was one of the first things I reported at 101, and I wrote a story about how Willian and Luiz had called Oscar, who is currently playing in China, and asked him to come to Arsenal. Without any kind of mention to the coach or to the recruitment team. It's not something Arsenal pursue because Oscar's not someone that we want to target. But it just, you have that feeling that you create these characters that feel that they have this presence that means they're kind of decision makers. At Arsenal, it's very difficult to do that. At Chelsea, I think you would find it would be much simpler. You got a lot of big characters in that squad. You have managers like Jose Mourinho that love those sorts of characters. But at Arsenal, you're just not going to be able to do that sort of thing. You're going to get, especially under Arteta, you're going to get put to one side. You're going to get exiled. You're going to get put away. And I think Emery kind of struggled with the big personalities at PSG. He came to Arsenal and struggled with the likes of Ozil. And what I find really funny about some of the criticisms of Arteta in a way is that we finally got a coach that is putting these players in their place by exiling them for when they misbehave or they break the regulations and stuff. And there's continual complaints about it. Now, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And the Willian thing comes up all the time about kind of he went to Dubai, he shouldn't have done that. Things are dealt with in certain ways. But then I get frustrated with Arteta in the same sense because he'll say things in interviews about certain players which aren't consistent with others. And I think he did that with Granit Xhaka in the red card when he talked about how one mistake should not ruin everything that he's done so far. And you think it's not just one mistake. He's made mistakes throughout his Arsenal career. And you can't keep making up excuses for this guy. He should be moved on at the earliest opportunity. He shouldn't really be playing for the club again after the whole situation what he did in November of last year against Crystal Palace. But he was brought back into the squad by Freddie Ljungberg. By that point, he was already in the squad. Xhaka then used him and had great success with him. But we're now at a point where Thomas Partey has come in. Yes, he's injured, but we're playing worse with Xhaka in the side this season, and that is a fact. And we're playing worse with Willian in the side this season, and yet he is continuing to pick them and making these kind of constant irritating decisions. And then you've got younger players in that squad like Balogun that's got a situation where he doesn't really know whether his contract's going to be signed. There's little hints that he might be getting closer to a new deal. We're still waiting to find out about that. But his contract situation is understandably fragile when he's not getting picked or even selected for the squad when you've got players that are continuously underperforming week in, week out for Arsenal. And he's picking these guys. And that's what I find so hard to defend against. It's very, very difficult. I mean, Wayne, as someone who wants to see kind of Arteta continue, how frustrated do you get at him making these mistakes continuously over and over again?
Yeah, it's not a case of it. I want to see Arteta continue as such. I suppose it's like I just don't want to see at this point in time a manager sacked and failed, and because I just don't think the club is set up to give him a fair bite at the cherry to show what he's got really. So that's just the way I feel on that. But just going back to your question there, looking at him consistently picking players like that, I mean. There is only one or two, maybe two, I don't know, one or two of players that are arguably we could debate whether they should be in the starting lineup. I mean, you pick out a Balogun, right? Like, very hyped up young lad, looks a fantastic player. I'm a massive fan, to be honest. Like, just put that out there. I'm a massive fan of the kid. I do believe, if anything, Balogun is 19. I don't see any difference between a 19-year-old Balogun and an 18-year-old Nicholas Anelka, really, who got the same chances. Actually got more chances, actually, and proved himself fairly quickly. He's a very physically well-developed young lad, and I do believe that I don't see much difference physically between the likes of him and, say, Eddie Nketiah. And to be honest with you, if I had any big problem, it's the fact that the likes of Balogun isn't being given more of a look, and the likes of Eddie is. I'm not a massive fan of Eddie Nketiah at all. I never have been. It just doesn't strike me as a player who's going to get me to the edge of my seat. And unless, to be honest with you, unless I see something like that in a player, funny enough, I've always kind of looked at a player and been fairly, fairly decent enough with judging them, I suppose. And some players will, will stand out straight away. And Martinelli, like, I tweeted about him when I saw him in his first preseason match, and I was like, yeah, Jesus Christ, this kid's got something straight away. You don't like in 2 minutes. Yeah. But the likes of Nketiah has never done anything to kind of absolutely excite me. But Balogun, for some reason, he just looks like he has, he's got something about him. And what annoys me is that I don't see him getting enough of a chance. Why not put, like, what have we got to lose? Give him, maybe he'll thrive even better under pressure. I'm looking at players like Pepe. We've spent a lot of money on, and we're not getting value for money for sure. But he's not really getting, like, what could he produce less than Willian produces, really? You know what I mean? And that annoys me as well. That I think Willian is the type of player who, when you sign him, you expect to get a minimum 7 out of 10 every week. You might blow you away, but again, he's going to put a shift in, up, back, and he might just create something at the end of it. We haven't got that from him. You know what I mean? And the problem is that every week he's being picked in the hope that he's going to give you your 7 out of 10 performance or your 8 out of 10. I can rely on this guy, but he's not. Because we're struggling to make things happen in the last third, somebody like him is just a waste of time at the moment. So why not take him out, give him 2 or 3 weeks off and let him freshen up his ideas and, give someone else a chance. We have got the likes of Reece Nelson there who, look, not everybody is a massive fan of him, but he might be someone that could actually do a little bit more damage than the likes of Willian. He's more direct. He's incredibly quick. And even if it was a ball over, because all we seem to be doing is playing balls from defence over the back, over the fullbacks. That seems to be our get out. Is just lump it over the corners. But you're lumping it over the corners with the likes of Willian trying to chase it down. He just doesn't. He doesn't have it. Whereas Nelson, you could actually get a bit of joy out of that. And that's where I think we're not choosing the players, the correct players. We're not giving the right players a chance. And for the system that we're playing at the moment, which is the system, look, Arteta wants to play this kind of possession-based press system, whatever, but we're not playing. I looked at it the other night, even when we had 11 men, all it was Sunday league kick and lump stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, why put players in for a system if we're going to play that type of shite? Really, like, it's, as I say, this Saturday we'll tell a tale as to what his agenda is with his team selection. If he, I swear to God, Tom, if he goes back to Bellerin, Xhaka, and Willian, those three players.
He can't go back to Xhaka because he's suspended.
No,
but...
let's say, for example, over the Christmas period, he goes back to Bellerin, Xhaka, Willian, straight back in. When he gets a chance to get them all available, he goes back into them. I'm going to start to, the patience levels is going to drop fairly rapidly for me now. I'd like to see him actually take the bull by the horns and take a few risks. I have no problem with a manager taking risks. I'd like to see that. But he's not taking risks. He's taking the safety way out. He's going for the old reliables and hoping that they're going to pull a result. Hoping that we won't get beat rather than trying to actually go take the game to people and take risks. Because that's not what we're doing at the moment. It's literally, it's non-risk football that's costing us really everything.
Let me take a couple of things from what you said there. Initially, going back to kind of your point about Eddie Nketiah, I have the same feeling. There's an element about his game, there's an element about his stature, his demeanour, the way that he plays that does not excite me, that does not make me think this is going to be a Premier League prolific goal scorer. He doesn't have the movement for me. He doesn't
Too
have...
slow
I mean, the shot he had in the first half was tame. Like, he got an opportunity where he could take a finessed effort at goal, and he trickled it towards Alex McCarthy. And you need to be lethal in those areas. You need to be lethal. And I mean, you look at the way that the likes of Mason Greenwood strikes a football. It's with power and it's with vigour. And Eddie Nketiah just does not have that. Balogun, for instance, his first opportunity in the game against Mulder, he struck a goal and scored. Yes, it hit the keeper. Yes, it was a bit fortunate, but he had the power behind it that the keeper could only parry it into the net. In his next game, he got another goal. Which rather, obviously not in the next game, but in the game against Dundalk, he scored again. And that's what I'm saying. And I think that goal against Dundalk, actually, when you look at that was in a very similar position to the chance that Eddie had yesterday against Southampton. And Balogun put it away comfortably. And it's just frustrating that these guys are not being given opportunities to even be in the squad. And I've come on the channel and spoken very honestly about, say, William Saliba's situation at the club. I've watched a few of the youngster games. There are elements of his game which make me think, okay, I can see why there's a bit of a reluctance to play him. He's still quite raw. His passing is a little bit off, and he's quite rash when it comes to last-minute challenges. And he's had a red card, and he arguably should have had another one in the match against Gillingham. But the point is that the reason why he's being so rash, the reason why he's trying to overplay and make these long passes, is because he's playing amongst a group of kids that, let's be real, are levels below him. He's a £27 million 19-year-old defender. The emphasis is going to be on him to try and create these long passes, to try and create these last-ditch tackles. And he's going to get frustrated because he's not playing first-team football, having played against the likes of Neymar and Mbappe last season. So put him in the squad. I'm not saying you have to start the guy, but you at least put him in the squad. The same with Emile Smith-Rowe. He's our only, in my mind, natural, available central attacking midfielder, a position that we have lacked all season, and yet we've not even seen him in the squad bar once, which was at the weekend last week against Burnley, and he didn't come on when we desperately needed some central creativity in that game. That's what's so frustrating for me, is just
we need that
creativity. Say again?
I said we need that creativity in every game, and we don't even have an option on the bench to bring anyone on.
And that's what I'm saying, is that, and there was a question actually in the Discord server. If you remember, you can join our Discord server and you can throw in some questions. We will be taking some questions from the chat box as well a little bit later on. But Daniel Robert in the Discord said, with the new rule of 9 subs on the bench, which came in today, as well as the concussion substitutes, which you haven't seen, is fantastic news for football in general. Daniel says, who do you see in our 20-man match day squad now with the 2 extra subs? Do you think we'll see a Saliba or a Smith-Rowe or a Balogun getting in more often? And I mean, yesterday on the bench, when we had 7 subs, Cian, we had David Luiz and Mustafi. We had 2 centre-backs, both of which are leaving at the end of the season. And that's what's really frustrating for me is the choices. And this is kind of the last bit I'm going to cover on team selection, because you can only talk about it so much. But is it a case of, do you think, I mean, if we're trying to put a reason behind this as well, do you think there's an argument to say that Arteta's picking these experienced players because the situation is so dire that he doesn't necessarily trust these young guys to turn this situation around?
Yes, but I think so, because there's a lot of pressure on him, because obviously he wanted to keep Mustafi. He offered him another contract. He gave David Luiz another year on his contract, but for me, I think a lot of things have gone sour between him and David Luiz in the sense of them not talking. So him being on the bench makes no sense. And going back to what you were saying about William Saliba, he was going up the likes of Mbappe and stuff like that last season. If you look at Leicester's Fofana, he played in the centre-back with William Saliba, and Saliba was overpowering him in this, like everyone was watching Saliba over Fofana, and he's one of the main centre-backs in the Premier League at the moment. So
I think, very quickly, I think there is a reason for that. I feel like I'd be doing myself a disservice if I didn't interject quickly, but Leicester's situation with Fofana, they had a massive injury crisis. I mean, they were left with Johnny Evans, Wes Morgan, and Fofana, and they had Soyuncu out, and they had another centre back out that slipped my mind. But they were left with these guys, and if you're given the choice between playing Fofana or 36-year-old Wes Morgan, you're probably going to pick the young guy you just spent €40 million. But I take your point in the fact that you've got this young guy. He's been bought by Leicester. He's not been put into the under-23 squad like Saliba has. He has been put into the squad at Leicester before the injuries to Soyuncu happen as well. So carry on. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out quickly.
I get that, but the way I'm looking at it is, would you rather Wes Morgan or David Luiz? Like David Luiz sometimes he gives away a lot of red cards. Like he doesn't show up a lot. So that's what my way of looking at it. Like William Saliba, the fact that we're 15th, he can't be worse than what we have. So just give him a chance to play. Like if he's giving the likes of Nketiah, as you said, who's not performing, Williams not performing. You have Willock, who I think needs to go out and loan. He's not performing at all. He's performing in the Europa League, but being from Ireland, I know what Dundalk are playing like. They're like Cork City can play against them great as well. So I just feel like with the likes of Saliba needs to start, but the two players you said that are joining, questions are going to be asked. Do you add Ozil? Questions are going to be asked. I don't know if Aziz can be.
Yeah, he's English, so he can. Yeah,
he can be. Yeah, so I don't see why you don't do that, or else go out and get your January signing of a Hassi Mawar or Buendia, and make sure that that's a priority, attacking midfielder, because if he doesn't play Smith Rowe, there's nothing else to go with in Arsenal's squad.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't help himself in terms of that selection. Anyway, it's a topic that we'll obviously revisit after the Everton game.
Tom, just on the Saliba issue there, just a quick one.
Go on.
Just to give you a quote there from Mr. Wenger himself, he was always known for, investing a lot in youth players and playing guys, giving them the chance. And like, this is perfect. He's actually talking about a centre back in this. You know the quote I'm talking about. But it's like, you pay for the education of young players with points. If I play a 20-year-old centre back, I know he'll cost me points during the season, and I'll have to stand up for that. A less talented 28-year-old will cost me less points. However, by 23, 24, you have a player. And the problem is that we're so low risk at the moment with our selection and the squad that we have, and everything that Arteta chooses at the moment is so low risk because we've not built up a luxury to allow these players to actually play. Where if we were comfortably 5th, 6th, 7th, we know we're not going to win the league, but we're going to get Europa. Maybe we could give these guys a chance. But I think at the moment we're in such a bad state is that he's not willing to risk anything, not one bit. And Saliba is fallen victim to that big time. Is that he's not going to have a sniff until we basically have nothing left but him to pick. He's at the bottom of the pile, and it's a disgrace really that the way that kid has been treated. And that's one thing that I'm just watching to see how it plays out, because I'm not 100% sure exactly what's going on in the background, apart from obviously his parents, his mother dying and stuff like that. I don't know exactly what is going on in the background with it, but I mean, would you see Arsene Wenger not playing him? No,
I mean,
because
he spent 27 million, and Wenger played the players that he invested in, like Xhaka, like Mustafi. Like he played them because he'd invested in them, and and so I wouldn't see him if he wasn't going to play him, he wouldn't sign him. It is my view, to be honest. And
just to cut in there as well, like he also came out and played a young Rob Holding and said sorry, he was only 4 million or something. So he
1.5, I think he was.
Willing to risk with the youth. So why not give him Saliba a chance? I think he would.
Wenger played Mavropanos. Remember we brought Mavropanos in, and he played him in Premier League games.
Oh, Trafford, he played him away to Man United.
Oh, he got sent off in a game. I can't remember who was it against. It might have been like West Brom or something, but he got sent off. Was it Man United he got sent off?
Man United he got sent off in Old Trafford, yeah.
Right. So, and he's now, by the way, having he's been injured for a bit, but since coming back for Stuttgart, he's been really good. And I wrote a piece because Sven Mislintat today got a new contract at Stuttgart. And the thing that really frustrates me about Sven Mislintat is people look at his reign at Arsenal and what he did at Arsenal, and you look at the players that were signed. Mavropanos was the first. And then we got in Aubameyang, and we got in Socrates, and we got in Torreira and Guendouzi and Mkhitaryan. And people look solely at those signings of Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan and Socrates as kind of those players. Yeah, they're Dortmund players. I understand that. He knows them. And maybe it's not the best sign to see a guy bring in not even young, but just players that he knows would have an impact. But the thing is, Arsenal were in a situation where we needed a centre-back, we needed a goal-scoring forward because Lacazette just hadn't cut it, and we were losing Alexis Sanchez for free in the summer, and Man United was saying, look, we'll take him and we'll give you a player that had scored and had scored and assisted more than 20 of each in the Bundesliga. Hadn't cut it in the Premier League so far, but there was always that chance he might work out differently in the Premier League at another club. It didn't happen, but the choice was between losing Alexis for free in the summer and having 6 months where he'd already declined, and that proved by him going to Man United and not really doing anything, or getting a player in Mkhitaryan. So I never look at that signing of Mkhitaryan and go, yes, what was Sven doing with that? Because it made complete sense to actually get a player in while we could on a contract to replace some of what we would lose in Alexis, even though it was a big risk. Aubameyang has been an amazing signing. Socrates, I mean, when you kind of look at Socrates, I'm surprised that he got ousted from the squad over the likes of Mustafi, if I'm being 100% real. I mean, I'd probably rather prefer the likes of Socrates to be starting over Mustafi right now. But that didn't happen for whatever reason. And actually, Socrates seemingly has more influence on the dressing room, and it was maybe even a worse social mistake. But going back to my original point, Sven Mislintat's time at the club it's kind of corrupted because it was overtaken by Raul Sanllehi. Raul Sanllehi, as our head of football, was a very much an agent-driven head of football where he would go out and use his contacts to sign players that didn't necessarily work for the team, but actually what was going on was that he was signing players that he knew he could get, that he knew had done pretty well in the places that they'd been, but ultimately wasn't what we actually needed under Emery. And that's where I have a bit of sympathy for the Spaniard, because he wasn't necessarily given the players that he specifically was asking for, like Nzonzi, like Zaha, was actually just given the players that we were able to get with his contacts. And Sven Mislintat has gone on to Stuttgart and has brought in some young, fantastic talent. There's a guy that came in from Paris FC that I can't remember his name. It's incredibly long and it begins with W, but he's doing fantastically well this season. I think he's got 7 goals, 12 in 12 games. And they've got a young keeper they got in from Hoffenheim that Sven brought in, and he's now been given a new contract because he's been allowed to do what he's best at doing. That's identifying the areas of the team which need to be improved on and bring in the players associated with that team that will get the best from that side. And Raul Sanllehi, for me, is going to go down as one of the worst things that ever happened to Arsenal Football Club. One of the worst decisions that we could have made. It's worse for me than the appointment of Unai Emery, which I thought was a mistake at the time as well. But bringing Raul Sanllehi in went against everything that, and I know a lot of people wanted Arsene Wenger gone, but the culture that we had at the club of kind of the young players coming through and working on bringing in kind of talent that fit with the ideals of what Wenger had, even though some of them and a lot of them didn't work out in the end, is that we then got Raul Sanllehi and we've got this squad that's just full of, thank you in the chat by, it's Wamagituka at Stuttgart. And you just got these players that are just a mix and match now of 3 different eras of managers. And there's so much deadwood and there's so many little cliques as well within the side that we've got a situation that is so difficult for Arteta to now deal with that it's completely unsurprising to me that we're in this position. So we're going to look back with hindsight on the situation through Sven Mislintat and think we made such an error in keeping Raul Sanllehi at the club over someone that genuinely had a real eye for football, an eye for talent, and an eye for a player that we'd always looked at Arsene Wenger towards the end of his tenure and go, he's kind of past it now. The game has passed him by. But we had a young German recruiter that had a real eye for modern day talent, and we let him go. And instead, we've now got the situation we've got with Edu. Whilst I think he's made some good signings in Partey and Gabriel, he's got a Willian in him. And that's a worry for me. And that is ultimately going to dictate, arguably, the next half decade to a decade of Arsenal Football Club. So it's never good to dwell on the past, but it's just, I thought, something worth mentioning regarding Sven. I want to take the opportunity now to go into your questions as we ask Wayne and Cian to answer as many of these as possible in the last 10 to 15 minutes that we've got. So if you've got any questions, you'd like to throw them into the chat box, please feel free. Wayne, I'm going to throw the first one to you from our Discord server. Mr. Joe Kerr said, what formation or personnel that we have... Yes, quickfire. What formation or personnel that we have right now could be best to push us back up the table before the year is out? And we have some nasty fixtures left, but surely there must be enough grit and professional pride to at least mount some sort of resistance.
I'd be looking at Ainsley, Maitland-Niles in midfield if we haven't got Thomas Partey available. And I would be definitely keen to give Balogun a chance. I don't think we have much else, Tom. To be honest with you, like, what else have we got?
Yeah. I mean, Smith Rowe, we talked about it. Balogun, possibly.
Yeah, there is. But I mean, we've got the January transfer window to figure out if we could buy somebody in between that time. So let's see how January plays out. And then we'll ask this question again in February 1st or 2nd, you know?
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Let's go to a question from the chat box if you've had time to catch up on what we were saying. If not, let me just throw to Discord server. Chat box, I know it's a little bit on the delay in terms of when I say questions, so let's throw those in as quickly as possible. There's a lot of comedic questions, it's fair to say, in the Discord server. Cian, Empire State Gunner says, why are we so shite this year? Which is a completely fair thing to ask. Jared Carver says, how many of our current players do you think we could see moving out in January? With the current unrest in the locker room, that's a very American saying. With the current unrest in the locker room, do you think some outgoings may be as important for the team as the incomings?
I think they're more important, but the thing is, who's going to buy them? If they know they're trouble, who's going to buy them? For me, I'd like to see Xhaka go out. I'd like to see David Luiz go out. I also, if I could, I'd cancel the Bias's loan already. In January as well, am I right saying that Lucas Torreira might be coming back?
That's been kind of scuppered from what I've heard.
Yeah, so if we do get him back, I'd play him
that's happening.
He'll have a point to prove. So to be honest, for me, I think the main people, there's only 4 players that I'd actually keep, and that's probably Saka, Tierney, Leno, and Gabriel at the moment. They're all just not, like, they're literally walking around the pitch as if there's nothing. And I was talking to my friend last night while watching the match, and I said to him, we're trying to play like Liverpool, but we just don't have the intensity to actually do it. No one's willing to run for the ball. So for me, I'd get rid of half the team if I could, and I'd be more Arteta in and players out than Arteta out.
Yeah, fair enough. Question from the chat box, Wayne. Ian Matey says, do you really trust this board to get us some players that Arteta needs in January, or to let the players leave? Wayne, are you there? Or have we lost you?
Well, they haven't proved that they're going to. No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a big delay. Just keep going.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Well, I said so far, we've got Gabriel and Thomas Partey in. It's the getting rid of the kind of dead wood and the crap is going to tell a big. It's going to tell a big tale in the next 2 windows. If we manage to get rid of them, which I do believe that Mikel Arteta wants to get rid of a lot of them, it's whether it happens or not. And if it does happen, but then I do believe that they, using Mikel Arteta, Per Mertesacker, and Edu, I suppose the jury's out on them. But I'm willing to give them a chance. I think they have an eye for a player. The fact that they've got Gabriel and Thomas Partey in has given me a little bit of positivity. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm going to assume that he's done. Wayne, you have cut out there a little sec, but I heard from the end of that you're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the board. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens during those last few windows, but we'll have to wait and see. Lars with a comment which I just want to respond to quickly. He says Isco is a lot better than Sabas and Denis Suarez. He is only benched because Zidane doesn't rate him. World-class player. Now, I am so against the signing of Isco, it's unreal, to the point where I've gone out of my way for tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock UK time to do a specific show on it. I'm going to be joined by John Driscoll, who hosts the La Liga Weekly podcast with Terry Gibson. We're going to have a little bit of a chat about Isco. We'll probably talk about Torreira as well, and Partey's involvement, and have a bit of a La Liga vibe around Arsenal. But the signing of Isco for me is just another one of those classic Arsenal mistake signings. It's a player that is on the way down. It's a player that has declined over the last couple of seasons. He's been really good for them in the past. Like, he has been an excellent player, and I used to love watching him at Real Madrid after he signed from Malaga. But Isco is not the guy that Arsenal need to look to with the current climate of the club, with the situation of the players and the ages that our players are. He has no sell-on value at all. He's under contract, which means he's going to cost us amount of money. Around 20 to 25 million pounds is the reported figure. It makes no sense to go out and sign Isco, who is a player that is declining, that is 28, and has ultimately not played at the top level consistently enough, because there's players like Martin Odegaard coming through at the club that the club are persisting with for longer, or they are choosing to go with a midfield three of Casemiro, Kroos, and Modric, which includes two very senior players as well. So Isco for me is just not the right player, but we will discuss that a lot more on tomorrow morning's show with John Driscoll, so make sure you tune in with that and set your alarms. Cian, Christopher Fung says, can Arteta really play expansive football with the better pieces, or is he just more conservative by nature, and should he lean towards that strategy?
I think he can. I just think he's really trying to get that centre attacking midfielder to actually do it. Because if you're looking at it, like, I know a lot of people don't like him, but I'm a fan of him. Hector Bellerin and Tierney, they're both crossing the balls in. They're the only way we're trying to score at the moment. And going back to what you were saying a while ago with not playing Bellerin on Saturday, I would if Pepe's playing, but I wouldn't if Willian's playing, because I think every game Pepe's played with Bellerin's actually played well, because Pepe's tracking back, Willian isn't, and he's kind of getting rid of loose balls, whereas Pepe's actually, if he loses a ball, it's lost at his feet. He's not swinging it in, whereas he always finds a player when he swings it in. I think if he got an attacking midfielder, but as you said, Emile Smith-Rowe would fit in there perfectly to be able to play his expansive football. I don't know what it is at the moment. I just think he really has to go back to the back three until he gets his players, because it worked for the FA Cup. And I know it's not a big thing for people to win, but if he goes back to what we were winning with and not listen to what the fans actually want of a back four, then maybe we might get the results over the line till January, get the likes of Hassi Mawar, if it is true, or someone of that type, and then get that expansive football. Hopefully we'll move up the table that way.
I genuinely think when it comes down to kind of the defensive side of the game and Arteta and people looking at us on this negative manager, he's looked at Arsenal and thought, what is the main issue with that club? And it's our defence. Like, our defence was so leaky, there were so many mistakes, and consistently we were conceding silly goals. So he's come straight in and he's gone, right, what do I need to do to sort this out? Well, he switched that back three and he moved those players into those positions, and that made us a lot more solid. We go to the new season. Gabriel wasn't actually meant to be coming in the first game, but because of the injury to David Luiz, he did, and was fantastic, and we're very grateful for it. But eventually, he needed to kind of switch and move away from that 3-4-3 to get more expansion, to become more dominant in games, and to try and put a more protagonistic feel around the club into our Premier League games. But by doing that, it means moving away from the more defensive 3-4-3 game and then rely on the improvements that you've made, or that you've thought you've made, on a lot of our players, which, when we were playing in the 3-4-3, made a lot of sense. But actually, when you move to the 4 at the back, and with Partey being so injured for so much of the season, the unfortunate thing that we've had to come and deal with is the fact that we've got now a defence which hasn't got the security of Partey which it had previously, and instead what we've got is we've got a 4 at the back with Bellerin and Holding on one side. When I know, Cian, you're a big defender of Bellerin, and I have defended Bellerin on many occasions, but there has been some issues in the last few games which has made me feel he just leaves Holding so much exposed at times, and it leaves him in a situation where he's bad one-on-one. Holding is like it's the worst part of his game defensively, and I support the guy a lot, and I think he's really good in terms of like when he's working in a system and when he's working on his positioning. But when he's caught one-on-one against a tricky winger, that is when he gets caught. And Bellerin leaves him vulnerable to that a lot. And that for me is an issue. And when you play in a back 4, Holding doesn't have that central centre-back of the back 3 to support him in that scenario. Like, you look at us in the 2 games in the FA Cup semi-final and final, how many times did David Luiz jump across the block shots which was on Holding's side? It was all the time. Like, it was constant. Him and Mustafi, when Mustafi was playing before he got injured, were doing it all the time in the back 3. But Arteta's kind of identified that as our main issue, and he tried to do something about it. We've moved forward with him transitioning, and because we've focused so much on trying to improve ourselves defensively, we've lost sight of the other end of the pitch, and it's left us really kind of inept at attacking, and there's no creativity at all, and we obviously lack the personnel to do that too. And ultimately, I just think that Arteta will be capable of doing it expansively when he's got the personnel. But the problem is we might not get to see that because the results in his team selection so far have been so poor that we're going to be left in a position where maybe we can't carry on with it.
Also, Tom, if you do go back to a back 3, I prefer not to see Tierney on the left-hand side, left centre-back. I kind of want to see him left wing-back and move Saka up to the left wing so that we could have... maybe put Gabriel in the middle of it with Holding on the right-hand side, and because he's left-footed as well, put Mari on the left centre-back.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, because to be fair, Tierney's well able to cross on a ball, so why not?
It's his best asset. Like, he gets caught one-on-one at times. He defensively, Tierney has looked suspect at times, playing in that left centre-back role when he's caught on his own. Wayne, are you back? Are you with us? I did hear you a second ago. I'm hoping that you're...
Yeah, I'm here, yeah.
Sweet,
just I had to reboot the stream, that's all.
That's all right, mate. Texas Gunner says, can we play an AFC drinking game next match? Take a shot for every cross, chug a beer for every red card. And oh, God. Just read that last bit. Jesus Christ. Carol Bailey says, can't see any of the Deadwood going in January. I would love to see Ozil, Mustafi, Kolasinac and Socrates go on to much bigger wages. No, totally agree with you, Tom. No flipping Ozil. Question, though, for you, Wayne. Tulip says, do you think we miss Luiz's leadership on the pitch? I think he should start in a back 3.
Definitely, yeah. I think for all his faults as a footballer, he's probably one of the most experienced that we do have. And look at, I'd say we do, yeah. I actually like David Luiz, to be honest with you. I went through a phase of a couple of years when he wasn't an Arsenal player where I couldn't stick him, but I think he's kind of like the best of a bad bunch, if you want to put it that way. Gabriel aside, I suppose, but look, he still probably needs to be replaced long term. But for the time being, yeah, I do think that he's better when he's there than when he's not.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's finish the show with our predictions, which could be fun for the Everton game. So, Cian, I need a scoreline and a scorer from you, please.
Oh, I think Calvert-Lewin's just going to be embarrassing us, to be honest. The fact that we know Gabriel is going to be... I'm going to hold hope. I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal, but go with... because he scored... Oba and a Saka, and then Calvert-Lewin.
Interesting. It's Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are going to have Holding on toast. If Bellerin is playing and does leave him exposed, they will absolutely ruin him. So, and annoyingly,
I want to have at Arsenal.
Yeah, Calvert-Lewin, 100%. He's someone that if Arsenal are playing back in the Champions League, I'll be like, yeah, we have the money to go out and spend 50 to 60 million quid on getting Calvert-Lewin, and that's what I would have gone for, but it's very unlikely at this stage. Yeah, but that's fair enough. Wayne, scorer and scoreline for me, please.
It's very hard for me to say this, Tom, but I don't think we're actually going to win on Saturday. We just don't have the personnel.
Yeah.
I only had a conversation with somebody about this recently. It's like you could watch a lot of podcasts, even from different fan channels and whatever else, and you never see anybody predicting a loss. They always predict a win. I mean, every single game it's a win, but I can't see. I'm being realistic.
Yeah.
If we play like we did the other night, even with 11, we weren't great, to be honest with you. I didn't see anything that was we hung in there. But if Everton are a good side themselves, and they could do some serious damage to us if we switch off at any given time, and the chances are we're going to switch off at multiple times, not any given time. So for that reason, Tom, I'm going to predict an Everton win. It kills me to say it, but it's not going to get any better for Mikel until at least mid-January, until we get a couple of players in at this point. We're actually struggling for players as it is, never mind adding to the squad.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'd be amazed, and it's a fucking miracle if we actually get something out of the game on Saturday. But I would definitely predict maybe not a massive Everton win, but the odd goal could do it. But I think we'll struggle to even score.
That's what I think. As soon as we go 1-0 down, like, we have no chance of winning, like, because we scoring 2 goals for Arsenal is the last time we did that, I believe, was against Sheffield United, like in the league. That's the last time we scored 2 goals in the Premier League game.
I miss the days where we used to just turn up against the Middlesbrough or something, score 7. Like,
yeah,
remember those days?
Remember Newcastle 7-3, like those types of days.
Sure, yeah. We used to get 1 a season. Actually, I remember we turned up on the opening day in the season in Goodison Park and beat Everton 6-0. You know what I mean? We used to have plenty of those. And funny enough, we played in Highbury against Everton and beat them 7-1 in Highbury as well.
Isn't it amazing now that we've played more games? Is it equal to the amount of games at Highbury in the Premier League as we have now in the Emirates? Yeah. It's 1 more, And you look at the stark contrast in what we were kind of promised about moving. It will start a whole other discussion if we go into that, but it is mad now that we've been there so long and how things.
Yeah, I know where you're going with it though. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get some of your predictions from the chat box. Thibaut Pesk says 0-0. Yannick says 3-1 Everton. Waleed says 2-1 Everton. Let me scroll up again so I can catch some of these. Zamir says 2-1 Arsenal. Daniel Robb predicts that Luiz is going to get sent off, which with Gabriel out, we could see him coming back in, of course. Waleed says that Aubameyang and Calvert-Lewin's going to score 2. Zamir says 2-1
Who would a lunatic predict us to score 2 goals, Tom?
No. Well, but wait for this one. Tulip says 3-2 to Arsenal. A says 2-1 Everton. Rydog says 2-1 Arsenal. Our left side will be attacking Iwobi at right wing back. Apparently Seamus Coleman might be back, from what I've heard, but Alan is injured, which is a big loss for them covering that back line. But we don't attack through the middle of the pitch, so it probably doesn't matter. Daniel Roberts says 6-0 Balogun with all 6 goals. Unbelievable positivity. Jared Carver says 2-2. Again, optimistic, thinking we're going to score 2. Ed says 1-1. Christopher Fung says we're losing, the score doesn't matter. Which is probably about where many Arsenal fans look at things. It's ultimately going to be a really interesting game regarding the lineup with Bellerin coming back in. Does he get that start? Does Arteta trust and go back to him? I sense that the backlash from that decision would be huge if that is the case. Willian being in the mix as well. He didn't play at all, I think, against Southampton. He wasn't brought on. Does that mean he was being rested for the game against Everton? Who knows? I think Pepe deserves another start after doing more in that game against Southampton than Willian has across the entire season bar Fulham. He had 2 decent efforts a goal. Yes, one was straight at the keeper and one was blocked. But he actually had shots. Like, he actually provided something, which Willian just hasn't in an offensive sense. So I'm hoping that Pepe is again chosen over the Brazilian, but we will have to wait and see. Thank you, Cian, for your time. Do you want to make sure you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, so my Twitter is Reardon_Cian, so please follow away. And also, if you could please, it's only in the UK at the moment, but download your feed. You'll see myself and Tom, where we'll be talking all things Arsenal. Hopefully, it'll get a bit better for us when Arsenal start winning. But that's it. And I also I can't remember who put it up, but thanks for the drinking game on Saturday, because it will be very well needed.
Yeah, other than the last bit. Last bit was the worst. Not happening. But anything that involves a couple of brewdogs, I will take all day long. Yes, in regarding what Cian said regarding your feed, it is only in the UK. So if you are a UK listener, it's coming out in Ireland, I think, soon as well, if not already.
So hopefully.
So if you are an Irish listener or a UK listener and you want to talk Arsenal with myself and Cian a lot more often, and a lot of other guys, and there's loads more, it's not just football, it's all manner of topics, then go and type in your feed, which is URFeed, FEED, into your app store. You will find it will come up, and download it and give it a gander. Finally, thank you to Wayne. Good to have you back on the show again, mate. Appreciate your time.
Yes, Tom, no problem. You can't see me stuffing my face with pizza here, but it is what it is.
Love, I wouldn't have it any other way, mate. Any other way. I'm sure we'll see you again back soon. There he is. That's why he's not on camera. Lovely stuff.
I would give the viewers some sort of place to find my Twitter, but I have had so many Twitter handles that I don't even know what one I'm using anymore. So
the one I sent you a link to was Vintage Hleb 23. So
my man Hleb, yeah, what a player. What a player.
Vintage Hleb 23 if you want to follow. I mean, I remember the days when Wayne had nearly 10,000 followers and before he got
I did. They were good times.
Yeah.
I built the
went
brand
after the wrong people. Unbelievable stuff. We will see you again tomorrow morning, as I said, for the looking at Ishko, which is an interesting one. And then I'll be back in the evening to discuss the game against Everton in a bit more detail with the predicted lineups and scoreline predictions again as well. So make sure you join us for those. Hit that notification bell so you get notified when we're going live. But it's 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, UK time. So Western listeners, you're going to have to get up a little bit early. But Eastern listeners, you'll have a nice evening show to tune in for. And if you're in Europe, well, it's just a nice morning show for you, isn't it? So we'll be back again very, very soon. Drop the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and it's been a pleasure to speak to you as always. And as always, up the Arsenal.
Isco, my bottom.